have just received my July of 2025 Nightworms package. Nightworms is, of course, the horror book subscription service. Every month they send us one of these wonderful black pouches that contains 2 horror novels and some extra goodies. And one of the things we do here on this channel, in case you're new here, is I open these up and broadcast to y'all whatever I find inside. I have no idea what these books might be, but they tend to give us some pretty good things, and I always enjoy discussing what I find inside while I make these videos. And of course, I do review all of the books that I've read. Obviously, I have not read these yet. I'm still just opening this up. But after I've had a chance to read them, I do make monthly book review videos in which I discuss sometimes these books and whatever other books I may have been reading in a given month. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, stay tuned for all of that. All of those things are very much appreciated. I will also, in case you're interested in either of these books, I will put purchase links right down there in the What's It. You can get copies for yourself while also supporting my work here on this channel, which is also very much appreciated. But it's been a long day for me. I was doing horrible business financial documents earlier. So I'm exhausted, and I'm looking forward to getting something to read, so I'm going to make this as brief as possible while still telling you everything you need to know about these books, but let's get right to it. The first one to come out is a hardcover. It is called Smile for the Cameras by Miranda Smith. I like the cover art. We have a cinematic sort of camera-ish style rendition of a somewhat creepy-looking cabin in the woods here on the cover. This is not a book I'm familiar with, nor an author I'm familiar with. The name kind of rings a bell from somewhere, but I don't know if that's just a synapse misfiring or if I've actually heard of her work before, but I have not read her before, as far as I know. Certainly haven't read this book. Let's read the description here on the flap and see what it tells us this is really all about. It says, an actress desperate to reclaim her fame must survive the real-life plot of the horror movie that made her famous in this psychologically twisted locked room thriller. I've read things and seen movies along those lines before. The idea that it's a locked room thriller specifically seems a little bit new or unusual, but let's carry on and see what else it has to say. Moving on, it goes on to say, 20 years ago, Ella Winters was the it girl. She made a name for herself in Hollywood and throughout America as the sole survivor in the cult classic slasher Grad Night. But the real horror is what happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Something terrible that Ella and her co-stars agreed never to speak of again. Shortly after the movie's premiere, Ella disappeared from the acting scene under the pretense of caring for her ailing mother, hoping to ease her guilty mind with a quiet life out of the spotlight. Since her mother's passing, Ella has decided to return to the silver screen, and with the cast and crew of Grad Night in the process of filming a reunion documentary, Ella has an express ticket back into Hollywood's good graces. Weighed down by the secret she's been keeping all these years, Ella apprehensively makes the trip to the original set, a cabin in rural Tennessee, to reunite with her castmates for the first time in more than a decade. But when the actors begin to meet the same gruesome fates as the characters they originally played, falling victim to someone dressed as the Grad Night villain, it's clear their secret is out. Now the question is, can the final girl survive one last nightmare? So, a lot of this is familiar and has been done before, the sort of self-aware, self-referential horror story, or slasher story specifically, about a final girl who is aware of the tropes of the genre and has to use that knowledge to survive the horror movie plot. That's been done before. The idea of the actress coming back and ending up in a real slasher story has been done before. I like the idea that this is a locked room thriller. That's, like I said at the beginning, adds something of a perhaps original twist to it. But even if it's not as original as maybe it could be, And I don't know whether it is or not. I'm just saying it has certain familiar elements. But even if everything's fairly familiar, it's a plot that works well. And as long as it's well written, as long as it has some decent scares and some tense scenes and those kinds of things, it should be a fun read. As I said, I've not read the book, I've not read the author, but I am intrigued. I do like a good self-referential slasher story from time to time. That's what this one promises to be. And I'm looking forward to diving into Smile for the Cameras. The next thing to come out is this pouch. This is all the extra goodies. There's usually a beverage and some stickers and bookmarks and things. I'll get to that in a moment, because the next book, and the last item, as a matter of fact, to come out, is entitled Beauty in the Blood by Charlotte Carter. This is another one that I'm not familiar with. But, well, I can't really say anything about it until I read the description, because I know nothing about the author nor the book. The cover art is good, but doesn't tell me a whole lot, so let's just go ahead and dive right in with the description and see what it's all about. This one says, Sarah Toomey is a successful young black lawyer, lovely but straight-laced and afraid that she is losing her mind. Since the death of her mother, a force she can neither understand nor control is manipulating her memory and driving her to unexplained acts of violence. At the same time, Sarah is swept up in a highly charged relationship with a work colleague that portends a danger of its own. As she moves through her privileged life in New York, Sarah comes to learn how her past, her haunted history, is intertwined with America's. Yvonne Howard was born into the working class. Now, after years as a prison guard, she has reinvented herself. Her passion for cooking has landed her a position at a trendy soul food restaurant. The future looks bright until an ex-inmate named Biddy appears, demanding Yvonne's help investigating her brother's shocking death. Pulled back into a world of ugly violence, Yvonne finds herself in the unlikely role of detective. She must unravel the dark and blood-soaked history that not only doomed Biddy and her brother, but also determined beautiful Sarah Toomey's fate. So this is an interesting... The description doesn't tell me a whole lot about where this plot actually goes or what the horror is. It does set us up with these two characters from very different backgrounds, so it seems like this may be a character-focused kind of a horror, something of a character study of a horror novel, and I do like that. I think good horror ought to be, not always, but at least very frequently, ought to be character-driven. And it sounds like that could be what this is, and if that is the case, I'm very pleased with that idea. It sounds promising, but it just doesn't tell me a whole lot about what the horror actually is. I like this idea that there's this force going to the first character that's controlling her mind in some way, driving her to these acts of violence that she can't explain, altering her memory. So there may be something supernatural about it in that sense, and if that's the case, I like that sort of a thing. Or even if it's not supernatural, even if it is some person somehow manipulating this character's memory, that's also interesting. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot I can say about this one because I know so little about it, but it does sound intriguing. It has piqued my interest enough that I really am looking forward to diving in and seeing what it's all about, so I'm looking forward to this one too, and I will report back once I've had a chance to read it. And that brings us to this little packet of extra goodies. I know the books are really all anyone cares about, but I do always go through the whole packet and talk about these things as well, but I'll do so quickly. First item is a bookmark. It tells us, it of course says Nightworms July 2025. It says that the theme and the title of this package is Sharp Edges. And in fact, the back design of the bookmark has a bunch of knife edges, a bunch of sharp edges of its own in the design, so that's nice. The next item is, this is the little pamphlet that tells us everything that's supposed to be in the packet. I think those are included so that we can sort of check off each item and make sure that we didn't miss out on anything, that they didn't make a mistake or anything. That has never been the case. I have never missed any of the items, and I'm going through them, so we don't need to read it in detail now. The next item is a sticker. And this one says, I take photos of books, and we have a skeleton with a camera, some mushrooms and things, and a stack of books. The skeleton is taking a photo of a stack of books. I do, in fact, take photos of books, and sometimes I post them around my social media. So if you're ever interested, by the way, in what I'm reading before I post my review videos, I don't post about every book I'm reading, but frequently I'll take a quick snapshot of a book and say, hey, this is what I'm reading. That's a way you can stay in touch with what I'm doing when I'm not here making videos for y'all. But anyway, this is a nice little sticker. There's always a sticker of some sort, so if you're a sticker person, these are nice packages for you. The next item to come out is this is a loose tea packet, which they have sent a few times before. It's usually a coffee or a like a what would you say, a tea packet, or it's, what would you say, a normal tea, I guess. But these loose teas have come a couple of times. This is it says flower and fruit loose tea pack with chrysanthemum, hibiscus, rosebud, red goji berry, and rock sugar, and instructions for preparation. I am not the biggest tea person, and I don't really know very much about these loose tea packets that they've sent a couple of times, but they intrigue me, and it's a nice thing to always get some sort of a beverage that you can sip while reading. I certainly approve of that. The next item is a book plate, and this is Charlotte Carter's autograph, so I'll put that here inside this Beauty in the Blood, so that's become an autographed copy. Next we have, two of the same book plate accidentally made it into my packet. I'll put that with the other one and then figure out what to do with it. There is more. There's another sticker. This is a girl with a flail and wearing armor, and sort of a fantasy-esque sort of a design. I'm not sure if there's significance between this design and one or both of these books or not. I suppose sharp edges and the flail sort of go together, so there's at least some similarity, but I'm not sure if there's more symbolic meaning or not. I'll have to read the books to find that out. But as I've said, if you like stickers, they always throw one or two nice ones in. I tend to like the stickers that they put in these. The next item, and yes, the last item, is another book plate, another autographed book plate. This one is from Miranda Smith, and I'll tuck that here in the cover of Smile for the Cameras. So we've got autographs, at least autographed book plates for both books. That is one of the things that I particularly like about the Nightworms packages, because I could buy these books from Amazon or Barnes & Noble or my local indie bookshop or wherever, but I'm not going to get the autographed copies. And book plates may not be quite as nice as a personally autographed copy if you meet the author, but they're kind of the next best thing, and as a collector of books, and autographed books in particular, I always like getting those in these packages. And in fact, I like getting all the things they include in these packages. The books, admittedly, not all of them have been my cup of tea in the time that I've been a subscriber, but many of them have been. I certainly, even if it's not one of the books that becomes one of my favorites, I'm always thrilled to get these books because they might not be ones I would pick up otherwise at the bookshop, and it's nice to discover some new things. These ones, though I don't know anything about them in particular, do seem quite intriguing. These are the kinds of things that at least sound like something I ought to enjoy reading. And as I said when I read the backs of both of these, I am looking forward to trying them out, and I'll report back after I have done so. But it has in fact been a very long day. I'm exhausted. My batteries and all my gizmos are about to go dead, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to do a little bit of reading before bed, because I do every night. That's something that you don't go to bed without reading your book. But I also have to admit, even though it has nothing to do with books, Amazon's Prime Day sale this past weekend, at least as I record this, included the Blu-ray of the complete Scooby-Doo Where Are You series for $12 or $13. So I got that, and I've been watching through while I have my adult beverage in the evening, a little nightcap and some Scooby-Doo. So I think I'm going to go read a couple of chapters. I'm going to go watch some Scooby-Doo. It's been a long day, so it's time for me to sign off before I ramble on even more than I already have been. But while I do that, do make sure that you check down in the What's It for Purchase links to these books. Give me the thumbs up, ring the bell, subscribe, all those things. Leave me some comments. All those things are very much appreciated. But the most important thing for you to do of all is to take care and stay scared.